What it is, what it ain't, don't it stink. Dry Humpin, episode 16. Enough is enough. And in the spirit of enough being enough, first story out the gate. Andrew Cuomo has resigned. The New York governor has been under scrutiny for the last 6 or so months for sexual assault allegations. He has now decided to give up trying to hold on to office and has resigned. And all I will say is I hope that we still keep the story in the news long enough to get some resolution and actually have the truth come out, whatever the truth is. And we're going to move on. We have a lot to talk about. We can't live there. Joe Biden's infrastructure bill has passed in the Senate. We are waiting on the House to allocate the funds and approve how the funds are going to be allocated. But it looks like it's going to go through. I'm not ready to celebrate too much right now. I want to see some implementation go into place. Right now we have figures and it looks good. We're going to go through the bullet points of those figures really quickly. Roads and bridges, $110 billion and another $11 billion for road safety for different cities and municipalities to increase safety on the roads and decrease accidents and deaths, especially among pedestrians and people on bicycles. $80 billion to modernize rail. They're going to invest some of that money in freight rail, but a large chunk of it is supposed to go to passenger rail to modernize the railways in America to make rail travel a more plausible and a more efficient way of transportation. They're looking at hopefully opening up new routes to and from different cities throughout America. I think we want to get the railways to look more like they look in Europe. Not in any particular country in Europe, but Europe as a whole. If you follow European soccer, you already know you could take a match with a team from Germany like Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund and have them have a Champions League match down in Paris against PSG, and half of the stadium is going to be filled with fans from Germany. Not only is half of the stadium going to be filled with fans of Germany, there are also going to be a bunch of fans from Germany outside of the stadium at local bars just to be in the area of the match. And a lot of those fans take the railways from place to place because it's an efficient means of travel in Europe. I feel like we can do that in America. A lot of people in America never take the train places. It's a popular means of transportation in the Northeast, from like Connecticut to New York to New Jersey and to Pennsylvania, but I really don't know many people who come into New York on a train from Boston. I don't know many people who take the train from New York down to the South. I don't even know if that's available. So $80 billion to modernize rail. $15 billion for electric buses and electric cars. $7.5 billion to add electric charging stations into rural areas. Just more charging stations everywhere, but especially in rural areas, in rural places where they aren't right now. So you have people in places out in the middle of the Midwest or in the South who can't even go and get an electrical car because there's nowhere to charge it unless you live in a major city. So they want to bring charging stations to other places, just not major cities in America. $65 billion to increase broadband Wi-Fi to rural areas and to ramp up broadband and internet in America. Airways and airports, airways and waterways are going to get $30 billion plus. Clean water and water infrastructure to replace lead pipes and service lines, over $50 billion. $70 billion plus for power infrastructure. $20 plus billion for environmental cleanup. And $1 billion to address racial discrimination in infrastructure. They want to redesign and demolish old and reconstruct old roadways and grids and all of that basically divided black neighborhoods up from the rest of society. So like in some cities you may have the bad neighborhood is divided because on this side of the highway, that's where all what's considered the bad part of town, and over here is where it's safe to live. They want to reimagine some of these highways and road grids to eliminate that. Like I say, let's celebrate this more when we get to the implementation portion of it. But sounds good. We're going to move on. All right. So we have to address the dumb-off between the Texas governor and the Florida governor. Governor Abbott out in Texas and Governor Desantis down in Florida, they're having a complete dumb off over who could have the worst COVID reaction and COVID bills on the books. And right now we're going to talk about the Texas governor, Governor Abbott, who's now asking for COVID relief after he's done things like made it completely illegal for businesses to have mask mandates to patron their businesses. He's made it illegal for certain cities to have COVID books on the law and in accordance to what's going on in those different cities with COVID. So if your city is having an uptick in COVID, you cannot go back and put mask mandates back on the books and different things to fight the COVID situation in your town. So with that being said, COVID cases are spiking in Texas. There were 17,000 new COVID cases on Saturday alone. 53 hospitals in Texas are out of beds. So Governor Abbott said enough is enough. He's now asking for COVID relief. He needs help with his hospitals running out of beds. He needs help transporting patients to other places because they don't have beds. So he's asking for help. But for all you people in Texas who love Governor Abbott and still want him to stand up to the COVID people and let's not lose our freedom over COVID, he has your back. He said this about his schools in Texas. Texas schools need not conduct contact tracing. Schools also need not let parents know if their child has tested positive for COVID. And parents can still send their children to school even if they have been in contact with someone who is infected with COVID. So he's still allowing the schools in Texas to be a complete hotbed. Meanwhile, his good old buddy, Governor Desantis down in Florida, he is threatening to withhold the salaries of any school superintendents and board members who institute mask mandates. We have to remember that there is no vaccination for children right now, so children probably should mask up because they're around parents who may or may not have the virus. Not in Florida. If schools decide to put mask mandates in place, the superintendents and board members may not get paid from the government. Both of these governors are now losing support in their states. They're dropping in the polls. They're losing support. I'm thinking that residents are finally saying enough is enough. You have COVID patients filling up hospitals in these two states, and both of these guys are saying, hey, we're going to put things in place that allow our schools where we send our children to be hotbeds. Come on, people, enough is enough. How are you still supporting these people? All right, let's move on. A black realtor by the name of Eric Brown in Wyoming, Michigan, was arrested along with the two people he was showing a house to, a black man and his 15-year-old son. Now, before we go too far, those two guys were let go on the scene. They were not taken to the police station. But nonetheless, they were handcuffed, they were detained, they were questioned, they were let go. Sounds innocent enough. I mean, I don't think the handcuffs were necessary. But because of one police call from a neighbor who accused the realtor of being a person who was just arrested there for squatting, police did not just show up to check out what was going on. Police showed up with multiple cars, guns drawn, with a cop in the back with a gun to secure the perimeter. At what point was that necessary? Now, the police have justified their actions and said they did nothing wrong. Everything was protocol. Everything was by the books there. If that's the case, then damn it, we need to question the books. Why the hell is it necessary for, okay, we have three men in the house who, according to one neighbor, shouldn't be there. According to a neighbor, shouldn't be there. Not the owner of the house. According to a neighbor, shouldn't be there. Let's treat this like a standoff when we get to the scene. They barricaded, they had the house blocked off. They were all standing behind their cars with guns drawn, demanding that they come out with their hands up. When they came out with their hands up, they were immediately placed in separate cars. The father was separated from his 15-year-old son. At what point is that protocol? I really want to know that. Is it, if it's one black man in the house, is it protocol? Is it just one person in the house? Is it protocol to do is it time for standoff protocols? What if it's two white guys and one black guy? Is that standoff protocol? What if it's 3 old white ladies? Does that call for standoff protocol? They're saying these are on everything was by the books. Where do we start on the books where we say, all right, prepare for a standoff? They say it was not racially motivated. They say the reason that they reacted that way was someone was squatting in the house who also drove a black Mercedes similar to the realtors. So because they had just arrested someone there who was squatting, they thought he returned to the scene of the crime, according to the phone call from the neighbor. First of all, neighbors, if you're that damn concerned about your neighbor's house, get your neighbor's phone numbers. Contact your neighbor first, the homeowner. Reach out to the homeowner and say, hey, is anything going on at your house? There are 3 people there right now. That's real easy. I had a friend of mine who dealt with a similar situation. They were in an Airbnb and the police came. The police didn't come with guns drawn, but the police came and was looking for answers about who they were. And they were like, yo, we're here for an Airbnb. They showed the police the reservation. They contacted the owner. And the owner came by and straightened everything out. And the owner said, well, yeah, I told my neighbors I wasn't going to operate this place as an Airbnb. I've since changed my mind. I didn't feel like I needed to let my neighbors know I changed my mind. It's not their business. He's right. It's not your business what's going on in my house. And if you're that damn concerned about it, then contact me. This all could have been avoided if the neighbor wouldn't have called the police and told them, hey, the same guy that was squatting there is back. It's 3 black. You should hear the phone call. I'm going to see if I can get it. It's 3 black guys in there. So, yeah, I'm just curious as to when does that protocol kick in that we need to have guns? And that poor 15-year-old young man is traumatized. As someone who's dealt with police officers pointing a gun in your face, it's traumatizing, and that trauma doesn't go away. That kid's 15. He was checking out a house with his dad. He didn't deserve that. We're going to move on. Apple is going to start scanning your phones for images of child pornography. They're going to use a service called NeuroMatch to flag any images that could be considered child pornography in phones. Those images will then be reviewed by a human, and if it is determined that that is child pornography, it will be sent to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Child safety advocates are applauding this. Security people are concerned for people's individual privacy. I don't really have too much of a take on this. I honestly think we're going to see some very, 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 very awkward misunderstandings. I think that may so happen. They are saying parents who just take innocent photos of your child in the bathtub need not worry. But I wonder, what would the people who are watching this think if they were to see the Funky Watusi music video from back in the 90s? Now, if that video is in someone's phone and then they flag it and the human says this is a little bit too much, someone should look into this. All of those children are now in their 40s, but still, I wonder what they would say if they saw this video in someone's phone. And that's it. We're going to get out of here today. Thank you for tuning in. As always, this has been therapeutic for me. I hope you got something out of it as well. We will be back next week. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, have fun.